That's awesome. All right, we're going to continue our trifecta of international leaders in thought, and we're going to be here. We're privileged to hear from Josie Howse, and she is she's one of the people that helped set the international sort of standards for education when it comes to Braille. So that's pretty exciting. So hopefully she's going to be able to give us insight about what the Department of Education can do for you. And you know that's really cool because I think Braille is very important for children who are extremely low vision or blind to learn. It's really important for the reading side of education, and for Braille to still be pushing forward at this point and still be evolving and developing in the way to educate in that, especially with new technologies like Braille monitors and such. I think it's really exciting. So I'd like to give a round of applause to Josie. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Not sure about that lead-in though. Is this one working? It says holding it. So thank you very much for staying at this hour of the afternoon. I just wanted to touch a little bit on the service we provide, and obviously it's enormous, but this will be just a snapshot. Looking at what Braille and large print service provide to students with a vision impairment in our schools. The service is part of the Disability Learning and Support Unit, they're based in Oxford Street, and we all fall under the umbrella of Learning and Wellbeing Directorate. Our unit, for the moment, is based in Ryde, and that's a work in progress because by Christmas the site will be bulldozed, so we'll be relocating, which seems to be the theme of business at the moment. They're relocating lots of organisations around and about. So I'll just get the button. The service we provide is a centralised unit. It's based in Sydney and it provides Braille, large print and e-text, teaching and learning textbooks, examinations, specialised stock and equipment to students in schools who are blind or low vision. Attached to our unit, there's 12 what we call Braille Outposts, and they're based in schools, electronically attached to our unit, and they're all over New South Wales. They provide ephemeral, miscellaneous material that's required by vision impaired students on a daily basis. So a lot of those booklets that schools produce, handouts that they hopefully remember to give in time, they're all done at the school base by these 12 outposts who are part-time SLSOs. And I have to acknowledge here the amount of production, both Braille and in some cases reformatted large print, that's done by the itinerant service and specialised vision teachers themselves, because I'm very aware that on a nightly basis, lunchtime basis and any other spare moment of the day, our teachers are also producing quick turnaround material to students. If one of those outposts has a window of opportunity, they let me know, and we advise all of our teachers that this particular outpost can do some work, and that student might be in Armidale and the outpost could be at Western Sydney somewhere. So there's a transfer of information from one production location to an embosser at another location. I'll touch first on the library. It's an extremely large real estate footprint. It takes up a lot of space, as I'm being told in these relocation and accommodation discussions. We do take up a lot of it. It's like Flemington Markets, if you can think of it that way. And these figures are very, very flexible in the sense of every day we're adding to the collection. There's new work being produced on a daily basis. by both the Braille and large print section, and obviously the e-text section as well. So while we are culling, and at the moment we have no Braille in non-unified English Braille, so previous works that were produced prior to the implementation of UEB in 2006 has now been culled, and we only have unified English Braille in the collection. Having said that, the curriculum changes, as we all know, and a lot of those books that were produced in unified English Braille are also being culled due to the changes in the curriculum, particularly the Australian curriculum. When that came in with the New South Wales syllabus, that affected a lot of the books that were produced in previous times. So these figures are very, very rough, but there's approximately 2,152 titles in the Braille collection, and that's titles. It's not referring to the number of volumes, because our record in the last year, probably the year before last, was 120 volumes for one Year 10 maths book. It was huge, and the itinerant who delivered it in her car at the end of the year took up the whole of the loading dock with boxes of Braille. I'm not actually sure how she fitted them in the car, because 110, 120 volumes of Braille takes up an enormous amount of car space when you're trying to pack it. But it was easier for her to deliver it to the door than it was to try and put it through the postal system. So many of our titles go. Year 9 was 75 volumes last year. The Year 10, as I've said, was 120. That's the sort of numbers you're looking at. And certainly with Braille, we produce all of the graphics that are in the original print book. So every graphic is produced in a tactile graphic form. We never leave anything out, working on the assumption if the student either doesn't want it, doesn't like it, can turn over. But if you don't put it there, they don't have that choice. So everything is produced, and it is produced in the sequence of however the school or classroom is using it. So we get our information direct from the vision support teacher. The orders come directly from that person to us, and if it's a new book, whether it's Braille or reformatted large print, it's in a priority order that's needed in the classroom. Otherwise, you're going to spend valuable time producing, maybe chapter 1 to find that they don't use that until term 4. So it's always done in the priority of the student, and hopefully, cross your fingers, the school doesn't change their mind halfway. That book that I was telling you that had 120 volumes had 9 volumes for chapter 1. Now, the class is likely to zip through that probably 2 weeks, and that 9 volumes of Braille that took, goodness knows, weeks of work was finished within 2 weeks. We did have 5 copies of that issued to 5 different students, and they were all working from different priority orders. So that was an enormous, enormous challenge, trying to maintain the priority order of different schools and send them out so they all had what they needed at the time when they wanted it. In the large print collection, there's approximately 4,150 titles, not volumes, in that collection. And again, that's a mix of N18, 24, 36, 48. Generally speaking, it's in that 18 to 36. And approximately 4,000 items are available electronically for student access using various devices. Everything we produce is also available electronically as a PDF in the first instance. Hopefully we try and get every request from the publishers, working directly with them. We have extraordinarily good success in recent years compared to the early days, and anyone who's been involved in transcription will remember how hard it was to get an electronic file from a publisher. We certainly have had some pretty good success. There's still a couple of rogue publishers out there that one threatened to take me and sue me if I even thought about scanning his book. So I just laid low. Okay. If the book isn't available, we always try in the first instance to get the electronic file from the publisher, and hopefully within a reasonable sort of turnaround time. But if it doesn't come, and we can't wait too long, we do have to get the print copy from the school, cut it up, scan it, and we've got fairly high-end quality scanners that we use as our backup. Now, just looking at volumes, again, these figures are very, I suppose, rubbery in a sense because, as I said, we're adding to the collection all the time. But for Braille, there was roughly 3,515 titles in Unified English Braille. That includes new production, anything that was newly produced. It also means anything that might have been in the library that we were luckily able to take off the shelf and dispatch to the student, or when it's not on the library shelf, we then have to make the copies. The library works like any other library. It has a barcode and it's accessioned and catalogued through the, I think, Library of Congress. So it's just functions like any other library. There's a loan period which we have to vary from different genre to others. For example, home readers for young students, they would have about a 3 to 4 week, probably 4 week turnaround time, hopefully just to try and keep the collection flushing through, because we go through, a student would go through a lot of home readers and we have a lot of young children. So a novel would probably be a term unless it's a year 11 or 12 text that they're studying, so therefore they could have it for 2 years. And technical work, if you're borrowing a geography book or any of the history or maths, physics, chemistry, then you'd be a year. Sometimes for year 11 and 12 it's 2 years because it carries over into the last year at school. Large print, 3,848 volumes were issued last year, or roughly last year, and 365 electronic files to students. We work on an ordering system where it's done online, and we do issue the electronic files to students usually in an electronic delivery way as well. Just from the production itself, just from the new production, just recently, we've had 186 Braille titles produced. And for large print, we had 285 titles. And of course, as I said, the electronic is constant. It's always there. Just some other resources that we do provide, and it's all part of the alternate format library. The curriculum textbooks required for students K to 12, well, I've already sort of touched on that. That's the general curriculum textbooks. We do as many as we can of the Premier's Reading Challenge, because this is Braille and large print, because the students do like to engage in that program. The classroom readers, those home readers are endless. They're a bottomless pit. We can't keep up with having to produce them. And also the reading recovery, so they're always in our catalogue with their reading recovery levels as well. So that's the young classroom readers. The set texts, obviously, for Braille in particular here, they are always a challenge. In recent years, we've done, well, every year we do the high-end advanced maths, but in the last couple of years we've really been excited because many of our blind students have undertaken physics, chemistry, engineering science, English, general science, languages, which is always a variety, including Italian, French, German, Indonesian, and most recently, over the last few years, we've had Japanese at HSC level and Mandarin. So they are quite a challenge because they've also got to be transcribed into Romanji if it's Japanese, so you've got to get it from characters into a anglicised, romanised form before you can put it into the Japanese Braille code. In large print and Braille, we do school magazine. Schools purchase that pack, I suppose. It's a monthly issue, and it goes from February to November. There's 10 issues for the year and 4 different levels. That's year 3, year 4, 5 and 6, starting with countdown as year 3. There is a lot, any of the teachers will be aware of all these, that there's teaching strategies that go with all of those school magazines. And the students do like to have those. So they can have 2 levels if they choose. whatever levels they want, but they can select 2. So if they're a strong reader, they might want Countdown and Blast Off. And even some of our ESL students in Year 7 have been asking for Touchdown and Orbit. They're a good starter in Braille because nothing's too dense. You might only have a few short stories or a poem or a play, but most of your teachers here would be familiar with the school mag. But it's also a really good strategy for a student who's just developing their Braille skills, and it's a little bit more age appropriate than looking at books in the early readers with pussies and puppies and things like that. When the school magazine is issued, it's not accessioned and it's not barcoded, and it's issued to the student and they can keep that. So it's a nice resource if they want to refer back to it. There's a crossword at the back of every magazine. So they often enjoy doing that in class and then take it home and use it at home. So as well as that, when we're not doing textbooks, there's all the ongoing, continuous, never-ending assessments, exams and competitions. And I'm speaking mostly in Braille here, but there's some of these that we do in large print as well. Starting with the Best Start Kindergarten Assessment Program, and that's for kindergarten years. And they need that on the first day of school when they attend, which would be, say, next year, 2018, on their first day. And that's delivered by the classroom teacher, and the way we've designed the pack for a Braille reading student is so that the class teacher can actually deliver it herself. She may still do it in conjunction with the vision support teacher, but it has been coded and colour-coded in such a way that, having delivered it to the rest of the class individually, she can still do it with the Braille reading student without knowing any Braille. We do the large print of that one as well, and that's in 18, 24 and 36 font. Valid, for those of you who have been around a few years, you may remember that as the old ESSA, used to be Essential Secondary Science Assessment, and was for Year 8 students. It's now known as Valid, and it's the validation of assessment for learning and individual development. I can see why they refer to it as Valid, because that's quite a mouthful. But that's an online delivery for Years 6, 8 and 10. And Years 6 and 10 will be doing it very soon, probably the end of August, thereabouts. There's a window when they can start and finish. There's a few-week period, but that should be happening fairly soon for Years 6, 8 and 10, and it is online. Now, what we do with that is that the higher education people who prepare this actual test do it in such a way that there's a reference within the file for them to refer to the tactual graphics booklet, which is what we prepare and send to the students. So there's a reference in their file when they're doing it online that says go to page 3 or go to page 6 or whatever it might be. So we liaise very closely with the developers of that test so that we can align the correct Braille page graphic with what's telling the student in the file. Then, of course, there's the higher school certificate, which is currently in progress now, at the moment. And we do an extensive range of subjects in all curriculum areas. So in 1 year we had 27 subjects, which is a pretty huge array of options for students. And it's good and reflects well that students now are undertaking a range of subjects. They're not just staying with the standard subject matter. When the students produce their responses, if they do it on a Perkins Brailler, so they get a Braille output, then, or if they use a Mountbatten and get a Braille output, it comes back into our office and we transcribe that from Braille to print, and that then goes to the marking centre and it's marked in accordance with the transcript of the Braille paper, because with every one of those external papers, a transcript of the Braille paper is produced so that it accommodates any small adjustments that might have been made to any of the graphics or questions to accommodate the equity and accessibility of that exam paper. The other big one in the year, and I've kept it to the right-hand side because it's not an examination as such, it's an assessment program, is the NAPLAN, of which we're all very aware of. the National Assessment Program in Literacy and Numeracy, and that's for years 3, 5, 7 and 9 for all students requiring Braille format throughout Australia. So since its implementation, I think it was 2008, I could be wrong there, but roughly 2008 when that plan came in, we've been producing that for the whole country. You'd expect to get 4 master sets of every, like taking one for 3, 5, 7 and 9, you'd expect there'd be a completely 4 master sets. This year we did 9 master sets to accommodate the variations of how students are currently learning Braille. And I guess that might sound a bit puzzling for some, but what it means is, for example, in year 3, we did the standard single line space contracted Braille version, we did a double line space uncontracted version, and we did a double line contracted version. And there are completely 3 different formats for year 3. And that was so that each student got the format in their preferred way. It's certainly a massive task. All of our exams, I will mention, even though I haven't quite finished them all of them are actually proofread 3 times. And that sounds excessive, but it's actually taking on about 5 people to do that. We have 2 blind proofreaders who are touch readers, and they each read with a transcriber, and then there's a 3rd reading against the transcript. So we've done our best to make sure there aren't any mistakes. We hope there's not, but there's certainly a lot of effort and consideration that's put into every dot on that page, as far as the actual code, making sure that the code is correct, and also that the format and layout is consistent and readable, so that students aren't struggling trying to work out where something is, because, as we all know, Braille is pretty fixed on that page and there isn't too much variation to squeezing something in. And the last one I've got on this list, although it's not the last one in a sense, because we do the selective high schools entrance tests. We do those when they're required. I haven't put them here. But the last one to mention today is the University of New South Wales Global National Competitions. And sometimes they go internationally. They go New Zealand, and some of the islands do request these competitions. And we start the year with science, then spelling, and the English, which comes with a stimulus book and a question book, and then the writing, and then the maths. And by that time, we're ready to start the cycle for the beginning of the next school year, because they're all coming in with new subjects, new books that they need for the following school year. Having said that, I've already heard that there's going to be a new 11-12 mathematics curriculum or syllabus, and that will mean automatically that the authors are out there writing new books. So hopefully we'll get them in the right amount of time, and not when school goes back and say, guess what, we need this book now. Which happens because sometimes they're still publishing in January. Okay, I've gone a bit too far. Other than textbooks, Braille, large print and electronic text, we do provide to students quite a lot of equipment and stock. All the students, if they choose to, have a Perkins Braille access, as does the ISTV and hopefully the SLSO if she knows Braille. Braille protractors, which you can see on the slide there. Students have to the nearest 5 degrees of tolerance when they're doing measurement, because the Braille protractors don't have the individual degrees marked on the protractors, and the same with the Braille ruler that's there. It's only to the nearest ½ centimetre of tolerance that they're allowed, which is usually, we've found with our Braille readers, they can pretty much get on the dot of exactly what that measurement is, even though they've got the tolerance. The tactile geometry kits and the paper that goes with it, I mean, there are various drawing kits that you can have. There used to be the Dutch kit, and we still refer to it as a Dutch kit, even though it's now an Austrian kit. But there are other versions of that. We provide that to the students. Braille label packs of that, Braille student folders to be able to store their Braille that they're doing on a daily basis in class, whether it's a regular size Braille paper. If it's an A4 size Braille paper, they can just use standard ring binder folders from your local newsagent. Heavily lined exercise books, we've got a huge range of those. There's probably about 18 different patterns, starting with the writing style exercise books right through to the heavily lined pads, which are the same pattern, except they're on a A4 gummed on the top and hole punched already in the pad, and we have those specially printed. The exercise books and the heavily lined pads are specially printed for us, and we usually have to get a minimum of 500 at a time to make it even economically viable, because they are extremely expensive to print. You can see with there's 3 sheets there from a pad. You can see the 2 whole ring binders that have been punched already, and as the student turns over, it just peels off the top of the gum on the top of the page. So that's only a very brief snapshot of some of the things we do. We do provide a lot of professional learning, both for itinerant teachers, the Braille Outposts, and any other SLSO who's working in class with a student who's blind, on a range of different topic areas. And I think, and also we've had a number of students come in at various times for work experience, because we do have our Braille proofreaders who do have the adaptive technology and refreshable Braille displays that they're using on a daily basis, so they get an understanding sometimes of working in a workplace, undertaking, tasks that are of an office setting. The last reference I want to say is that I understand that the unit it's highly regarded across Australia. I've been told by Blind Citizens Australia that it is the largest provider of alternate formats for students K-12 in the country, and we have been a national and an international leader in the implementation of the Unified English Braille Code for students and teachers, and we're constantly providing professional learning on anything relating to Braille in particular, to effectively anyone in our system that requires it. Having said that, I was invited to go to Brisbane on Monday for a 2-day workshops in Queensland with the education sector and a private grammar school. So it's hopefully we're only scratching the surface of the things I want to do. We have a 3D printer on the radar of a commercial nature, and I mean big, because I don't want to just muck around with a little dinky one, because the potential is just unlimited. I can just see so much opportunity there to assist our students with providing concept development, both at the early developing stages in kindergarten to year 2, but also in the high school settings where they're looking for biological type assistance and geography. It's just, how long is a piece of string? There's just so much to do, and just trying to put all these things into the mix with everything else that's being requested. So thank you very much for everything. I'm sorry for the itinerant vision teachers who already know most of this, but hopefully some of you might have picked up something. Thank you.